everybody, welcome back. Well, as you saw from the caption on the end of the last video, that rather got away from me. Too much gossiping maybe, but I was doing the last bit of editing and saw how long it was, so I thought I'd make it just stop there. So today we're really going to do the actual fabrication on the saddle base and the hump, etc. So before we get started on that, I don't know if anybody have noticed, but there was something over my shoulder in the last video, and it was in actual fact this, which as you will recognise is a baseball bat. I don't know how much of this is actually in view, but anyway, it says on it here 2018 Richford Trophy Trial. Was made for me by my friend Bob Slater, who's a Brit that lives up in Canada, Baseline Bats, and it's actually his Triumph 350 engine BM 350 that's in the credits at the beginning of the thing, and he gave me this as a trophy for our trial, and what we're going to do with it is make it a special trophy since it's a one-off thing. For those of you who've sort of watched the videos about my trial, it's a gate trial, so you actually accrue points, you don't lose them. So what I've got is, this is going to be for the highest score for anybody riding 2 classes. Now last year I had one rider who shall remain nameless, but some people know him, and you have actually seen him in a previous video, who rode 2 classes. Now that's 80 sections, and these are biggish sections. A lot of people have trouble finishing the trial just riding the 40. So I think I'm going to have a couple of people anyway who are going to attempt to ride 2 different classes, and this is going to be the trophy for them. In fact, the unnamed person says he's going to ride all 3 classes, which means 120 sections. So we shall see what happens. Anyway, let's get on with the saddle. The first stage of this, oops, as you can see from all the stuff here, was to cut out our base. Cut out the slot for the frame tube, cut out the piece of the back for the mudguard, and you can see it's just the same as a template. But in the end I didn't actually use the template because I just modified 1 or 2 of the measurements. I actually made it slightly wider, and as you can see I put a curve in the bottom of that, things like that. So we also put a slight bend in, because as you remember it goes down. This part's more or less level on the back part of the seat, that's where the hump is, and this slopes up towards the petrol tank. So the next thing I've got to do is make my 2 pieces to go across the big part of the hump there and the small part of the hump there, which is, as you know, this bit. Now because I've changed the dimensions slightly, the dimensions of the hump are going to change a little bit as well. As you can see, it's slightly narrower because I made this 10 inches. I've actually made the base 10.5. Now both front and back had a vertical part and then the curve, and that makes it 6.25 inches tall. I had thought, as I was looking at it, it looked a little bit too tall. It didn't quite flow the way I wanted it to from the tank to this. So what I've decided to do is I'm just going to make it a complete semicircle. Now seeing as the base is 10.5 inches, that's going to mean it's going to be a 5.25 inch radius, so the height is going to be 5.25, so it's just going to be an inch lower, which I think will be fine. And at the back, that's 7 inches, so it's going to be 3.5 inches high, and this is 4.25 as well, so it's going to be 3/4 of an inch lower at the back and an inch lower at the front. So what we'll do for that, find places to put everything, is we'll just get another piece of aluminium. We're going to put some die chem on it and then use a pair of dividers to scratch in our semicircles. So let me put this on and let it dry, and then we can mark it and cut them. Our die chem's dried, and what I've done is I've put tiny little pop mark right on each edge, so I can just get a spot for the compass, or in this case the divider, to rest. So this is going to be the 7-inch one, so it's and you can see why we use the die cam. It shows up this, instead of just being a scratch, it shows up nicely through there. Now the other one is going to be 5.5 inches. So there we go, there's my 2 semicircles for the humps. So I'll cut them out roughly on the bandsaw and then get the curve, and then we'll use the belt sander to get it nice and smooth and a good semicircle. Now I've just cut them out roughly, partly to give myself more manoeuvrability, but also when you're using one of these, because I don't have a proper bandsaw, you've got a very restricted throat, so I can't get a lot into there. Particularly with this one, you see I had to do a couple of cuts to get it in. So let's see if we can get this reasonably round. This is going to be noisy, but I'll show you it anyway. The one thing about sort of cutting it rough is that, you know, for a bandsaw to be decent, it's got to be a fair width to be rigid, so you can't cut a real curve. But here, as you're cutting, this can flex out the way, so it gives the bandsaw or the bandsaw blade more chance to follow the curve around. So I'll cut the other one out and then we'll get them exactly right on the belt sander. And the saw actually really followed close, so there's not much to do. I really switched the camera off then, I meant to switch that off. And there we go. You just you know, you have the mark. I suppose I should have got up so you could see it. But what you do is you just press it on that until you get to the mark. And just keep moving it round. And you'll get it right nice like that. So clean this up, tidy the edge, do the other one. And then we can set these down on our base and tack weld them and see how they look. Here's the first piece clamped on, piece of angle, and I've used a square to check that I have two flat sides here. There's a bit that's perfectly flat, taper at the front, at the back, taper at the front, but here there's a few inches, there's enough to get a square on, and I'm nicely square on both sides, all clamped up, cleaned off with a stainless steel brush, washed off with acetone. So let me put a couple of tacks on. I'm going to weld it, almost going to stitch weld it because I don't want to put too much heat into this. So let me do that and then we can take that off and put the tail one on. I've got this piece tacked on and the little cut out there to clear the rear mudguard. So I'm ready to do the final welding and make up the cross pieces here to sort of make the forming buck. One thing that was driving me crackers was this would rock. And I couldn't find out why. I kept looking everywhere thinking it must be touching on something. What it turns out was this cross piece here, this piece of plate, doesn't just go from tube to tube. It goes up in the middle. I guess it's following the curve of this spine tube. So consequently anything that went on it would rock from side to side. So I've put some pieces of rubber tubing on just to lift it up slightly. And what we'll do here is when we're finished we'll glue on some little rubber pads, which would be a good idea anyway. So let's put that on with its little centre lines lined up. And now, see, it's all on this bloody thing. Okay, so that's that. Oh, I think we are getting a sort of psychic connection across the internet, because it takes me 2 or 3 days between finishing a video and then it being uploaded and me getting to read the comments. And just as with the instrument mounting, at the beginning of this video I mentioned that I decided to lower the height of the hump. Bugger me when I look at the comments, what are people saying about the cardboard mock-up? That I should lower the height of the hump by about 1 inch, which I did. So is that spooky or what? Anyway, the other thing is, I'm wondering whether I should make, when I bring this over, bring it down lower to actually cover this piece of tube. Maybe shape it there. And also on this side, you see, we have a moderately unsightly gap. Whether I should have it come along like that. I can't make my mind up because I'm not trying to make some, you know, aesthetically perfect bike. I'm trying to build a cafe racer the way we used to build them. Cafe. We used to say cafe in Middlesbrough. We had Ria's Cafe down by the park. And that Ria's is Chris Rea, the singer, who went to St Mary's College the same as I did. Actually, he's the same age as me. We were basically contemporaries. What was I saying? Oh God, see, I shouldn't go off at a tangent. Yeah, I was talking about the side pieces. So we can leave that in abeyance because we're not upholstering the base. The upholstered part is going to be completely separate, so I can take it off and make any mods to this I want, welding, what have you. So let me build this up and then we'll come back. There's the struts put in to give us our buck to form that on. Now of course I've still got to do a little filing because this edge is square and this edge is square, so actually when you put that on there, now can you see it at the top? This edge needs chamfering down a little bit, and so does that one, so I can use these now to go around with a file, and going like that I can get them till they actually slope at the right angle. Then we'll put our skin on. So here's the skin cut out to its shape, so now what we've got to do is bend it around that. Now I didn't get any different alloy, so we'll have a go with this. What I'm going to do is bend a certain amount of it like that. You see it's quite springy. What would be nice would if I had a roller, one of those roller things that just puts a curve into it, but we haven't. So what we're going to try and do is, as I say, bend it to a certain extent on the buck itself, but then also I'll put a nice piece of round in the vise, and we're going to try and actually manually roll it around a piece that will be in there. So we'll do that. You'll see that anyway. So I'll get it started on this, and then we'll move over to the vise. So this is the hand forming process we're going to use. We're going to work it on this and then keep trying it on that till we get it to fit right. So I put a line down the middle just so as I know where I'm working from roughly. Because it doesn't have, I maybe shouldn't have used that glue for this. There we go. What you've also got to remember is you're going to work it, you're not going to work it parallel to that, it's coming back to here. So you're slowly going to be working it as you go around like that, so you end up parallel with that. So it's a curved process as you're doing it. Now, as you can imagine, this is going to take some time, so I won't bore you with it, and you won't, I'm going to put some gloves on actually as well. So let me continue with that until we've got the right curve. So I'm gradually working my way around, and you can see here it's starting to form up. I made it a little bit longer because, you know, I made that curve with a piece of paper and this is thicker, so just as with bends you've got to take it into account. So that's about the middle. So you can see there, at least I hope you can, that we're starting to get close to. So I'm just working this side. I'll start to work that side in a minute. I've got onto the stage now on this side. Let me, oh, you can see that I'm using a plastic dead blow hammer just to, because as you bend it you tend to put little kinks in, because you know you're not as good as a machine. Well, I'm not. So you can just use that to gradually get the curve you want. So let me carry on and we'll come back in a minute. Once I've finished getting the curves right, the next thing to do is to weld it on. So I've done some of the work, but what I thought I would do is show you the process. So the first thing I did when I got it all on was to tack it in place to get everything held up. Then the next thing is to weld it and make sure you get good penetration, of course, but also put a little bit of extra filler metal in so I've got enough left to dress up so that it ends up looking like that. And when you dress it, if you've made up a welded joint like this, don't leave a sharp edge. I'm not talking about a sharp edge in there. Cut yourself, but don't leave a square edge, because paint doesn't like going around square edges. Just ease it off a little bit, just so that it has some curve for the paint to go over. Alright, let me weld the bottom up and dress this up, and then we'll come back. There it is, all dressed up. I give it a little bit of a glass blast just to take the shininess off so you can see it all worked in. So I'm going to put it on and pull you back so you can see what it looks like. There you go. Oh, left that backlight on. Hang on a second. I think that's fine. Had comments, another spooky one. Was it David that suggested I actually put a piece in there, which we've just been talking about? But I think with this little slope forwards of the back piece and the little slope back of that, I like it anyway. So the next thing to do is to put on somewhere to fasten it on. So we're going to use the tried and tested method of a little knee here that's going to come down on the inside, so we can catch it with those two bolts, and we'll probably make something up at the front to catch onto as well. Now also what I'm thinking is let me zoom you in a little bit again. Here this is resting on these tubes, but as you can see they only go to there, so I'm thinking about there that I might tilt that down to be level with that. So it's going to go up and then just slightly down, just like that a bit. See? The only trouble with doing any of this, of course, is it's going to make the upholstery harder. If this was just perfectly flat, it would be nice easy squab leather on it, but if it's going to start going up and down, then who knows what might happen. So anyway, let me make a couple of knees for here and slot them, and then we'll come back. I've made up two knees, right, they're slotted at the bottom with a little bracing piece put on, and what we're going to do with those is put them in onto the top suspension bolt, one on each side. And what I've done here is I've marked where they are and I've drilled a couple of holes. Now I could bolt these on, but the reason I built the holes actually is so I can put that on there like that. Then we're going to push these knees up till they're just right in each place, and I'm going to weld into there. Then I'll take the whole thing off and weld it to the bottom properly. That way I know they're in the right place. So let me bring the welder over here. I'll just fill those holes in to hold everything in place. See, this way I know they're exactly right. They're slotted in because, you know, they're not exactly at the vertical angle and all this sort of stuff, and it's annoying when you weld something on, but the slight quirks of the way a thing is, you go and you find it's a little bit off. So very often with these, if I can find a way of actually getting it all put together in situ and either clamping it or in this case welding it, as I say, I could have put a bolt through, drilled all the way through and held it, but I thought the easiest thing was just to weld it up. So let me do that. There you can see where I welded through to hold them in place, and then they were welded onto there. So now that's all good and strong. Because don't forget, you're actually sitting on the seat, so it's not really a matter of being strong so much as just holding things in place. Then they go on like so. Tighten them up. That's on there. Right, let me zoom you. Okay, so I think I will bend them down that little bit. Catching on the rubber there to get to that. But I quite like that shape. Now then, as I say, I mentioned I'd changed my mind about the way I was doing the upholstery. What I was going to do was have a flat piece of sort of nylon or whatever, HDPE, and a piece up the back, have them fastened together, and then upholster that and drop it in so that there was a little lip that covered the edge, because when it's stapled, what have you, to the bottom of that plastic, it's not going to go down quite right. But I decided I didn't like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm still going to make the base out of the plastic, which has arrived, and which I think I ordered too thick. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to mill a piece out, you know, like maybe an inch wide, all the way around on the inside of the shape, and then when the cloth's pulled over, we'll staple it in that rebate. That way the cloth is going to be perfectly flat all the way around, and then we can just bolt that down tight onto there and it will have a nice edge. Okay, next thing is, are we going to put a piece along here? So I'm going to make up a little cardboard mock-up for you to look at, and that's probably going to be it for this video because we're off on our holidays. You may have heard in the video a little earlier it raining. It's done nothing but rain here all August, and it's probably going to rain next week, and we're actually going camping. Not in a tent, you won't get me in a tent, but we do have a little camper, a little caravan. So I'll make this mock-up for you to have a look at, and then I can get comments by the time I come back. And also I had a request for a closer look at the lathe, so I'll do a little bit of that, and that'll have to do it I think for this week. So there's a mock-up. I'll give it a quick spray of primer just so it didn't stand out too much. But that slopes to the end of the tube is there, goes along, fits in here a little bit. So we get some comments on that. I think the only thing I'm worried about with this bit at the end is, can I get the seat off? Because with this rubber mounting here, well, I suppose I could take the tank off first, but actually putting the tank back on would be difficult. But anyway, you see what I mean about, I can't take this off because the screws are underneath, so I couldn't exactly lift it up and bring it back because it'll catch on that. I don't know. Anyway, you think about it while I'm out kayaking and probably just getting wet, and we'll take it from there. So let's go and have a look at the lathe. Now I'm going to hand hold this so I can show you bits and pieces, so bear with me if we get a little wobbly now and again. Alright, it's a Sheldon, which is American made, 13 by 36. This came to me in one of the things, the stories you hear but you never get to be part of. Steam Shop and I and a friend went to collect a compressor and a Bridgeport mill that our friend Jay had bought, and it was part of a collection of stuff that a couple of guys had bought who buy and sell from a machinist, and they were sort of stuck with the stuff, so they turned around to us and said, if you give us $2,000 you can have the lot. Well, we got this lathe, we got an 11-inch Logan lathe, we got the Bridgeport mill, we got a big compressor, we got at least $2,000 worth of brand new tooling, end mills, drills, taps and dies, and all sorts of other stuff. So anyway, I finally decided to take this. You heard how quiet it was. Now then, it's got an enormous gearbox and electric motor. The motor had to be rewound, so that's all it really cost me. This reminds me of the old umbrella handle thing in the, what was it, the Citroen 2CV. You push it in and you twist it about and you get, I don't know if this will stay in focus, you get these 8 different speeds, because there's 4 speeds in the gearbox and then there's a high and low ratio there. Stop, start, forward, reverse. Feeds and speeds. The slightly later model in this actually had their patented dials. This was enclosed, was an oil bath, and you did it by dials. So It came with a nice 3-jaw chuck. It's a buck, which is one of the not self-centering. It's got, you see this here? There's 4 of these, and this chuck is sort of a loose fit on the back plate on the register. So you can set it up just like a 4-jaw chuck. You can move the whole chuck to center it perfectly on the spindle, which is very nice. It's an MT3 taper in that. You can actually, these are the 2 feeds, cross feed and carriage feed, and you can put them in gear at the same time. So it'll move along this way coming out, or if you switch to reverse it'll go that way going in, which I guess will give you a 45-degree angle. The bit that's missing there was a Rev Counter. What else can I tell you about it? One nice thing are these. Iron focus there. Great big dials. All the dials are really big. And, which is so handy, I don't know if you'll be able to see this because the lighting down here is not brilliant. It actually has a dial. Let me put you in autofocus for a second. Whoop. It actually has a dial for the carriage feed as well, so you don't have to guess how far along you're going. It's really nice. The Colchester weighed, I think it was £1,200. This thing weighs 3,300. Consequently, using the cut-off tool is no problem at all. Anyway, it's a very nice lathe. It has an oiling system for this. There's a little plunger that you push and pull and it pumps oil to the cross-feed ways and everything. I'm pleased with it. And it was certainly, I actually got 8 tool holders in amongst all this stuff, and they're about $100 a piece. So for my $600 and odd, well, I paid $500 to get the motor rewound. For $1,100 I got $800 worth of tool holders. I got a good $2,000-3,000 lathe, and I got all sorts of other stuff as well. So anyway, that have we gone out of focus again? Leave you with us in focus looking at it. There you go. That is it for now. So as I say, while we're away camping, you go off and enjoy yourselves. Don't put the kettle on yet. I was just hanging my coat up, so I was looking at the bike from a different angle, and I thought you might like to see that side from up here. Okay, make your minds up and let me know. Bye for now.